Featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski can't wait to dance inside the octagon with the dominant lightweight king, Islam Makhachev. Along with joining the legendary list of double champions, Volka is confident this fight will make him one of the all-time greats. Longtime training partner and former middleweight champion Israel Adesanya has also sided with the Aussie to make light work of the Dagestani fighter. Keep watching this video for more on both stories. First up, the greatest of all time. Alexander Volkanovski is without a doubt one of the greatest featherweights of all time. He's put away some of the biggest names and sits on top of the mountain with no competition on the horizon. And since competition is what fuels the Aussie, he's decided to move up a weight class and take on the dominant lightweight champion Islam Makhachev. It's going to be a clash of the titans, as both men are highly skilled and entertaining fighters. Volka does have the advantage of fighting on his home turf, as the event is going to take place in Perth. But he's not your average fighter who cares about selling out arenas or pay-per-views. No sir, Volka is a man with a vision, and he wants to create history by becoming one of the best mixed martial artists of all time. Becoming a double champion is just an additional benefit that's going to come with beating Makhachev, who fans are calling Habib 2.0. I have the opportunity to go from being one of the best right now to possibly one of the best ever. That's how big this fight is for me. We're not gonna lie. We've been waiting for a fight like this for a really long time. Islam Makhachev will truly be tested at UFC 284 as he goes up against a confident and visionary fighter set to take his belt and etch his name in the Hall of Fame. Next, feeding off the negativity. Almost everyone in the fight world thinks that Islam has an advantage over the Aussie, and that size is the difference between the two men. Makhachev is fighting in his native weight division, so he's used to pulling all that weight, and it's actually Volka who's stepping up a notch to sail into unknown waters. But all these things are way past Alexander, as he literally feeds off the negative energy. A lot of fighters and analysts have been saying things like how the Aussie shouldn't take this fight because it could end up damaging his legacy. But if there's one thing we know, it's that the featherweight king loves a good challenge. When fighters and analysts come up with reasons why he shouldn't fight Islam, Volka thinks all those are reasons why he should take the fight. The 34-year-old told all the haters to remember what they said when he finally raises his hand in Perth with the lightweight belt around his waist. And even if he's unsuccessful in achieving the double champion status, he doesn't want people taking anything away from his legacy. The fact that he's willing to step up when literally every other fighter in the entire promotion is afraid to face him is nothing short of heroic. Now, we're not taking anything away from Islam, but if there's anyone out there who could beat him, it has to be the Aussie. He's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet right now and has a lot of weapons up his sleeve to usurp the lightweight champion. Moving on, already at the camp, Volkanovski usually steps up his training about 8 weeks out of a fight. But with Islam Makhachev as his opponent, the 34-year-old is not sitting around. He's already kicked off training camp and claims he's never done a camp like this one he's about to do for UFC 284. The Aussie said it's going to be very Islam Makhachev specific, and that doesn't necessarily mean he didn't take the rest of his opponents seriously or something. There's just a lot on the line, and he wants to be prepared for what the Dagestani fighter brings to the octagon. But what does Islam Makhachev specific even mean? Well, Volka is a complete fighter himself, but everyone knows Islam is known for his high-level grappling and wrestling. The featherweight champion intends to focus a lot on his ground game and takedown defense to make sure he has those departments covered. But at the same time, Alex is confident he's going to shock Makhachev when they fight, because he hasn't exactly gone up against the best fighters. The only standout fight in his resume is the one against Charles Oliveira. But if we're talking about the lightweight division in general, he hasn't fought guys like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, or Beneil Dariush. So while the fight is certainly a step up for the Aussie, Islam will also have to bring his A game on the night of action. But yeah, the featherweight champion is in no way scared of him or what he brings to the table. Following up, a former rugby player. After his loss to Alex Pereira at UFC 282, Israel Adesanya has made a lot of appearances in different podcasts, but the most interesting one was Flagrant, hosted by Andrew Schultz. Izzy and Volka actually go a long way back, as both gentlemen are training partners. While talking about the highly anticipated battle set in Perth, The last stylebender destroyed the whole notion of Volka being too small to fight Islam. He talked about how the Aussie used to be a really fat rugby player, used to carrying a lot of weight. And believe it or not, there's actually some science behind it. Izzy claims that since the 34-year-old is a former rugby player, used to carrying a lot of weight, he has a different muscle density than most fighters. He can take a lot of damage without giving in. And if we're talking about the additional weight, it's not going to be a problem for him, since he's already carried it around while playing such a demanding sport. It makes sense though. He might not be able to match Islam in height or reach, but he's not going to be moving any different when he adds on the extra pounds. He's still going to be an agile fighter who packs a lot of power and just refuses to go down. And speaking of going down, did you know Khabib thinks Alexander has the biggest heart in the entire UFC right now? You could do anything to this guy. Choke him, twisting his ankle, hit him with thunder, and he still won't go down. Up next, much stronger than he looks. Izzy also talked about how a lot of people tend to underestimate Volka's power just because of his frame. Now, the 34-year-old is a really big guy, but isn't exactly the tallest, and Islam actually calls him that short guy whenever he talks about him. But the former middleweight champ thinks that perception will change once they stop talking and start fighting. Now, Izzy is a huge guy. He is a lean physique, but he's 6'4" and absolutely towers over the Aussie. And since both of them are training partners, casual sparring and wrestling sessions are actually really common between the two fighters. But despite his small frame and average height, Alexander still ends up giving the Nigerian a really tough time. The last stylebender said this himself. When Volka has him down, he can't get up no matter how hard he tries. And that's why he's ready to bet his house on him at UFC 284. He's much stronger than he looks. And we're not sure if you've seen that picture when Alexander is shaking Islam's hand inside the cage. But have you seen the size of his forearm? It's massive! So Islam will need to be careful, because if he underestimates his opponent even for a second, it could cost him the belt and put a serious question mark on his legacy as well. He'll still look better than Henry Cejudo, who didn't even bother defending the title even once and vacated it. But since everyone calls him Khabib 2.0, he has a lot riding on his shoulders. Last but not least, what about speed? Joe Rogan always comes up with something unique and different. While the majority of the fight world continues to stress over the size difference, the UFC commentator is looking at things from a different angle. Now, it's not exactly a secret that Islam hasn't fought the best guys yet, but has he fought someone as fast as Volkanovski? The Aussie is lightning fast, and we've seen him use that to his advantage in the featherweight division multiple times. Now, Makhachev has no experience fighting someone so quick and agile, so what happens if he can't catch him? What if Alexander evades him every time he tries to take him down or grapple him? It'll be a huge issue, since it'll take away Islam's greatest weapons, forcing him to fight at his opponent's pace. It's an interesting way to look at the fight, and if you ask us, we think it might just be the one thing that gives the Aussie the edge. That's it from our side, folks. So what do you think? Can Alexander Volkanovski shock the world and become a double champion at Perth? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more exciting videos in the future. Thanks for watching. See you next time.